Well. Something for the Man United fans to get excited about. Absolute insane wild card, yet very exciting and effective footballer Matheus Cunha could be on his way to Old Trafford. Romano has confirmed that there have been contacts, £62 million release clause or something like that, which, yeah, he's going to cost that. It's your classic. Diogo Jota went for a few quid. Neto went for 50 million to Chelsea. This is the next superstar off the Wolves, conveyor belt, as it were. And we're going to talk about it a little bit, look at his stats, speak about how he's an absolute mentalist as well that loves a fight, which, if you are in a tricky situation, is that what you want? Maybe it is. Actually, the more I think about it, if they buy a centre forward and they have Bruno Fernandes and Cunha behind, they could be a serious operation. Ben Jacobs posts this on X. Matheus Cunha open to the Manchester United Football Club. You may have heard of it. Following a meeting between player side and club, as reported last week. Champions League next season is not a deal breaker, which the United fans will be pleased to learn for Cunha, who is keen to listen to long-term projects. Might have to be really long-term, G. However, it's an easier deal financially for Man United to pull off if they win the Europa not Conference League. Jesus, I've got trauma from my own club. The Europa League. Excuse me. Which they do have a good chance. They've got, a couple of wins and a draw left to lift the trophy. Nothing has changed Wolves' perspective. They are expecting an exit for Cunha and believe £62.5 million clause is the market value. They're yet to receive a formal approach. Well, if there's not much, if not a lot of clubs come in for him and no one's triggering the clause, Man United might get him for like 50 million. I mean, it's a lot of money still. Then again, they spent 80 million on Rasmus Højlund, so yeah. Cunha is a target for a number 10 position at Old Trafford, as revealed by Alex Cook. Forest also hold an interest. Arsenal divided whether they want to enter the race or not. We'll look at his stats in just a second. I get why. Look, man. Before we look at his numbers and how he could fit in at United, he is crazy. Like, he's mental. He gets into fights all the time. He swings at players. He gets into fights at full time, pulling glasses off, security guard's face. He does the social media crazy stuff. And I think personally, that's why some big clubs have been hesitant. Like, Arsenal, who have had the most amount of red cards than any other team since Mikel Arteta took over, they'll probably be looking at this guy like a red card machine and think, do we really need this right now? And maybe Man United, who for their own reasons have been a bit of a banter club, might be thinking, is this what we need? But to be honest, because he's such a quality player, Man United would probably be like, yeah, we'll just do it. Of course, he's Brazilian, so he's Portuguese, speaking in terms of good communication with other superstar Bruno Fernandes, and indeed manager Ruben Amorim. Let's take a look at his X-Value page here. So he is considered a one-to-one to explorer and chance creator. As you can see, his heat map up here. Mainly his left-sided player, but sort of all over the gaff. You'd think it would be him and Bruno on the inside. I think Bruno also kind of occupies sort of the left pocket as well, so it'll be interesting to see how they work. But if you look at his performance chart, it's incredibly strong. Even recoveries is really strong, considering he's a forward. Aerials is weak, so he just doesn't even try to win headers. You'd like it even a little bit more, but that's still a very, very strong performance chart indeed. He turns 26 this summer. And the interesting thing with football at the moment, footballers are playing for longer in terms of their health, nutrition, the health science or physical science or whatever you want to call it. But players are peaking younger. And that's because of the high nature of the high-octane press, counter-press, running. So, teams like my mob and loads of other teams are trying to buy really young, like teenagers, get them to be really as good as they can be by 18, and get them having played loads of football by the time they're Matheus Cunha's age, which can be dangerous because they can burn out. So it's almost like, you can have a longer career as a footballer if you're really good and you keep yourself a good nick. But you've got to sort yourself out quicker, which is kind of really tricky because human beings don't mature psychologically until late, and suddenly they've been forced to be better younger. So turning 26, in old money, that's entering your prime. But it's funny or interesting, at least, how the game is changing. So let's take a little bit more look at his advanced stats per 90 for further context. His performance chart here is pretty balanced. Interesting that his dribbling, he doesn't cross, but that might be a tactics thing. I mean, to be honest, why would he cross? He's more central. Doesn't do cutbacks. And I think this is the most interesting. The expected threats from carries means he's not going to carry the ball in, but he's going to pass the ball in, and he's going to often finish chances. So let's turn these switches over to per 90 for context. Goals per 90, expected goals, bearing in mind he plays for Wolves, pretty strong, 7.9, non-penalties 80th percentile, so he's in the top 20th percent for non-penalty goals. Pretty good shooting goal at value in terms of the shots he takes. This is what you want. He's creative as well. He's in the top 10% of forwards for expected assists, open play expected assists, and expected offensive value added, which is essentially an aggregation of all the things you do to help the attack. Also here, very, very strong on progression, which is great. Getting the ball up the pitch. Expected threat, which you can look here. Measures the increase in probability of scoring provided by passes, ball carries, based solely on the start and end location. So how he's getting the ball up the pitch into the danger zone. Yardage, man! Yeehaw! NFL style. Yeah, so he's good, bro. He's a good footballer. He'll help the attack. He'll certainly fight, and he'll offer a little bit of bite, as well as bite, maybe a few punches as well. Maybe you need that a little bit. Like, he wants to win. He's a born winner. He's playing for, like, Brazil national team. I mean, he's good. He's great. Like, if he was in my team, I'd be pleased, but I would be concerned. Especially if, like, he went to Chelsea, I'd be concerned, because we're looking for the seniority and leadership to sort of calm down a bunch of kids. You know, Matheus Cunha is just very much chucking a really talented nutter into the mix, which I think for a team so young as Chelsea would be tricky. I don't think Guardiola would take him for the discipline issues. And because of all that, like, I kind of see it at Man United. I could sort of see it at Tottenham as well. In terms of just having someone who hates losing and just trying to stop the team from losing a bit more. But, you know, it's in the DNA of the Tottenham, etc., etc. I actually think it works, to be honest. Like, from a Man United fan's perspective, they should probably think, yeah, I like it. You know, like, he is a good player, especially considering, like, if they don't win the Europa League, you know, they are going to be, like, in a real tough place, because they're probably going to finish 14th, 15th, 16th. They could finish 17th. They could finish 17th. Oh no, West Ham's got that sewn up. So yeah, 16th, you know, from anything from 14th to 16th, I think, which is obviously record-breakingly bad. They're basically in a really tough spot, Man United. So if they can, you know, make a big exciting signing like this, someone with character, someone with balls, and, you know, suddenly, like, yeah, you know, if they buy a striker, he doesn't even have to be a superstar, like whether they get a Delap or just a proper centre forward, with suddenly Fernandes and Cunha behind, you have to suddenly think, okay, you know, and then even if they fill the spots that Amorim needs without, like, expensive signings, like Patrick Dorgu is really cheap. Is his name Patrick? He's Patrick Dorgu? I'm trying to double check I'm not getting that right. Yeah, the young Danish wingback. So he was playing where was he playing? Let me just double check here. So Man United signed him for 25 million from Lecce. So Lecce, let's see where they are on the table at the moment for context. He's a 20-year-old wingback. Lecce they're 1 point above the relegation zone in Serie A. So Man United spent 25 million euros, also just about 20 million quid, just over, on a young player who's in a relegation fight for Italian team. That's kind of where they are. They've done it because he fits the system. So, and that initially makes them better. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, in a way, like, you know, in terms of a back three system, you remember Chelsea signing Marcus Alonso from Fiorentina for not much money, and him being very important just because he fit the system. So if they do that, if they get cheap wing backs, a cheap centre back, and then you add the super quality of, like, a Cunha, you know, I would be excited if I was a Man United fan. and it looks like Man United fans are excited. So, you know, maybe it won't all be dark and depressing. Who knows? And I do think it's a good landing spot for Cunha. Let me know what you think. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, as always, for supporting the content, liking and subscribing. Road to 16,000 subscribers here on Football Yannick. All right, man. Hope to see you back here soon. Peace.